All right, we're going to get started here. I just want to say thank you to everyone for joining and good afternoon. Really excited about this. It is a topic I actually get very passionate about, which is how do we better automate and manage onboarding and offboarding. We'll dive in today. I'm going to be taking the lead in terms of hosting, and then Brian is going to be bringing all the Smartsheet expertise and walking us through the platform. So I'll start off with a little bit of background and let's do a quick intro for myself and for Brian, a little bit about DigitalRadius, and then we'll jump into a demo of the product itself and the solution we've built on top of Smartsheet. And I also want to say a big thank you to Smartsheet, who's also been working very close with us. We're a Smartsheet Gold partner. Very excited to have a number of Smartsheet reps join, and as well as the sort of overall platform, which is fully based on the Smartsheet technology. All right, so jumping in here, a quick intro to DigitalRadius and to myself. So Brian, if you could jump to the next slide. DigitalRadius is a Smartsheet Gold partner. We founded it about 2.5 years ago, a little more than that now. My own background, I was the VP of Enterprise Systems and Finance Transformation at Moderna. I owned the relationship between Moderna and Smartsheet for many years. And I also went on after Moderna to run VP of Enterprise Systems for Resilience, and have done quite a lot of other work in the SaaS space as well. At DigitalRadius, we have a long list of clients focused now on Smartsheet, but also business transformation, technology, digital transformation for life sciences companies and for other companies as well. And we've built a practice area focused on how do you best leverage Smartsheet? How do you really use Smartsheet to turn that platform, which we think is incredibly powerful, from a project management or sort of basic Smartsheet like Excel type model into a much more powerful use case around process automation, transformation, a technology platform that changes how your business operates. And that's what we're going to talk about today with onboarding, offboarding, is how to use Smartsheet to change how you work. So this is some of the team members at DigitalRadius. Really excited to have everyone here today. And also, Brian, you want to do a quick intro, and then we'll jump into the next slide.
Sorry, sure. Thanks, Under. Brian Connell here. I'm a principal Smartsheet architect with DigitalRadius. Been a long-time user of the Smartsheet platform. Started using Smartsheet in 2014. Started really loving it in 2016, 2017. When I spent some time working for Smartsheet as well, really learning the product deeply and diving into all the capabilities and advanced functionality. I'll get into my background a little bit more in detail momentarily and kind of why I'm such an enthusiastic champion of Smartsheet. But ultimately, I think of it as kind of a build your own universe type of flexible tool. I often compare it, if we've got any gamers on the call, to Minecraft, where if you can imagine it, and then you can build it in Smartsheet. So it's a really exciting product with tons of great capabilities that a lot of users either don't know about or haven't really thought through how they can use Smartsheet beyond just project management. So really excited to present to the group today on onboarding use cases around HRIS and kind of people or worker data. But just keep in mind that Smartsheet can pretty much be applied to any kind of use case with any kind of process and data behind it.
So here, I just want to talk a little bit about Smartsheet and why do we get so excited about it, and how does it apply here to an HR operations use case? Smartsheet is much more than just a spreadsheet solution. That's what it's originally known as, but it's far more powerful than that today. Smartsheet's an automation platform and a workflow engine. It's a way to take processes today that are Excel and email and frustrating and take you a long time and turn them into an integrated automated platform with approvals, notifications, dashboards, user interface, workflow, forms, data reporting, and analytics. It is a full service solution that I also think is probably the highest value ROI in the industry. Smartsheet publishes a 6-to-1 ROI, saving $6 for every dollar spent on the platform. I would say even that it might even be higher than that. The real benefit here is when you're leveraging the Smartsheet platform, you're buying a license that gives you access to all kinds of transformation capabilities, and especially for small to medium business, or even scaling all the way up to large enterprise. And I'll say the first version of this onboarding platform we built was for a company with a few thousand employees running Workday. and they had this big gap around contract management, contingent labor management, onboarding, offboarding, and we built a solution here that really knocked it out of the park for them. This is where I get excited about Smartsheet. And so what we've built is a team of experts with some strong ex-Smartsheet developers, including Brian, and we really believe that Smartsheet is a transformation platform. This is a way to change how you run your business, and ultimately that changes so many things about your company, more than just, hey, this is a widget or a technology tool or a checklist. It's much more than that. So Brian, if you go forward. So I joke, this is our sort of most impressive slide, but DigitalRadius, this is some of our current clients or our clients as a company. We've done work across a wide range of industries, solved this problem for a large number of different types of companies and different size of company. So everything from smaller companies in the 20, 30, 40, 50 person range, all the way up to multi-thousand person companies looking to automate onboarding, offboarding workflows on a global scale with multiple HRIS platforms. And the needs are different, but the platform stays the same. We can build this to suit from small companies looking to automate and really, help them scale up with those first critical hires and set the stage for growth in the future, all the way through to large companies that are struggling with specific problems at sites, countries, regions, et cetera, or struggling because they don't have integration between multiple applications in their HRIS stack. Yep, Brian, if you go forward. So what is the solution feature? Effectively, this lets you manage worker onboarding and offboarding in a centralized place, and that is this unified Smartsheet environment. It's fully automated. It's integrated into other platforms. That's really an implementation question. But functionally, from a technology perspective, we can integrate it with all of those other tools. And we've got customized workflows based on FTEs, contractors, vendors, all built in one place. So instead of having that frustrating world of, hey, my FTEs are over here, and that's Workday or UKG or service or SuccessFactors, and then over there I've got an ITSM or ticketing platform trying to handle the IT side, and I've got identity and access management happening somewhere else like Okta or Azure, Microsoft Active Directory. We've unified that. We've integrated it, and we've got integrations into all those applications. It's got task management, unified task management, so that when somebody gets assigned a task, they can go into Smartsheet, they can see that task, they can go into Smartsheet, they can take action. And also, this is not just a task checklist. It can integrate into other platforms, take action with APIs, with data management. Reporting and analytics. So there's data that gets generated off of this that can get served up to leadership, to HR leadership. There's really a key part of the Smartsheet platform is that you can build these dashboards and reports, and you can even export to other business intelligence tools. Power BI is pre-built, easy to export to Tableau, other tools as you'd like. Automates IT and facilities provisioning and deprovisioning. I come from an IT background myself. It's extremely frustrating to get that distribution list onboarding DL email on Friday afternoon saying there's 17 new people starting on Monday and they need laptops and desks and they need access to all these systems. The other part that often happens here that gets missed is, especially with contractors or contingent labor, IT never hears when they leave, right? We never hear about offboarding because it was high demand to get these people in. But everyone forgets to mention that, hey, that contractor from Deloitte actually hasn't been working with us for 6 months, but they still have full ERP access and edit rights or admin rights to systems they shouldn't have access to. This is an automated platform for both onboarding and offboarding. I think that's a critical distinction here. RBAC, role-based access controls. So another piece here that I've lived with a lot with is roles. I've sat there, I've been the director and officer, signed up for a SOX control saying, hey, Onder, you've got to sign off that these 700 people have the right level of access to SAP. I can tell you definitively, looking through that long Excel spreadsheet, I have no idea whether or not most of those people have the right level of access. It's impossible to know that. One of the things that we've done here is automate the integration into RBAC and role-based access control so that we know from an HRIS system what the role is, and we can tie that through into the roles that are being assigned at the system level. eSig integration, so we can do full e-signatures tied through into the platform. And also critically here, human capital management, HRIS, payroll system integration, so we can tie in now, do a lot of work with ADP Workforce Now, very common with clients, also other work with other platforms, Gusto, namely Bamboo, UKG, Workday, SuccessFactors, et cetera, really the gamut from the smaller platforms all the way up to the large enterprise systems. And then also we provide ongoing training and support. So this is built really as a long-term partnership. We deploy a solution that we continue to support after we've deployed it. And then just some quick background. We call our pre-built apps the Scale platform. They're a platform, they integrate with each other, all built on Smartsheet. The really cool thing is here, the Smartsheet license is effectively a one-time cost plus some user cost. And then on top of that, we can deploy multiple tools. And so there's a huge ROI to the first tool, but when you look at the ROI on that second, third, fourth, fifth, et cetera, we can automate a huge number of different problems for you, all built on the same technology license. So you're unifying your technology stack, you're reducing your license spend, you're reducing your cost in IT, you're reducing your overhead in IT by saying, hey, we're going to use one Smartsheet license and we can deploy a lot of different solutions. And DigitalRadius as a partner, we've pre-built those solutions. So some of the solutions we've built, we've got a project management tool that's one of our flagship solutions built on Smartsheet. We've got a number of tools for finance, service accruals, savings trackers. We've got an ITSM solution, IT service management, ticketing, et cetera. So if you don't have a full sort of ServiceNow type deployment, we've got a tool built on Smartsheet that does that for you. We've got a full performance management tool. I'd say it's head-to-head competitive with a lot of the big performance management platforms out there. We've got a vendor management solution, common problem. How do I request, approve, onboard, manage, maintain my vendors? And then there's actually an RFI, RFX type request for information or request for proposal type capability built in there. And then of course, this that we're focusing on today, worker onboarding, offboarding, that we'll dive into shortly.
Andre, are we saving the last couple slides there for the end or go through those now?
Yeah, we can save those for the end. I think this is a great point, Brian, for you to jump in to the product itself. Okay,
great. Yep, we'll go ahead and toggle out of our deck here and jump into Smartsheet and get deep into the sheet. In terms of what we're going to be looking at today, if you are already pretty familiar with Smartsheet in the core application, you know, it's working in spreadsheets, but if you're new to Smartsheet or haven't played around with too many of the premium applications, you're going to be seeing a lot of that today, kind of the advanced capabilities and some of the newer features and capabilities that Smartsheet has released in recent years. So going beyond just a basic either business or enterprise license and adding things in like Control Center or other premium applications that really enhance the solutions in Smartsheet and what you're able to do for kind of end-to-end automation and workflow management. What we'll be taking a look at in terms of what these solutions are built in is Smartsheet Work Apps. That essentially takes the Smartsheet native application and treats it like a backend and allows us to put a clean and elegant UI with role-based permissions on top of our Smartsheet solutions. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Apologies, guys, I had the wrong tab open there. So in Smartsheet, you've got a Work Apps icon over here on the left. If you're navigating in the native application, you'll see kind of the Home tab and the other options that you have on the left side, and then this Work Apps kind of diamond icon that brings you into a section with all of your Work Apps. So Work Apps are a great way for us to kind of remove the burdens of users needing to navigate in the native Smartsheet environment to know what a workspace is or to know what sheets are or different reports and so forth and dashboards, and allows us to provide a curated list of pages for a particular role. Now, under this admin login or admin user that I am logged in this tab, so you can see I'm a kind of a sysadmin or an onboarding admin in this case, I have a list of all the admin pages. Additionally, as the owner of the solution, I have access to the other roles, but just keep in mind that when users who are not admins come and log into a Work App like this, they'll be assigned to the role that you have assigned to that user or that group that user is part of, and they won't see this drop down that we see when we are logged into the system and viewing it as an admin user. We will take a look at some of the pages as kind of a manager role to show how managers can track their employees' onboardings or trigger offboarding workflows for employees or extend contracts for contingent laborers on their team. But for now, we'll focus on the admin pages here just to give you an idea of what types of data we're dealing with and kind of what the overall system architecture and purpose is behind all of this. Now, in terms of our admin role here, you can see that the first page that we start on is just a long list of the company directory. Now, we can see that a number of our employees here have worker profile links. So what Smartsheet allows us to do is kind of create pages for any given data that we want to display in a given way. And I'll show you what one of those worker profile pages looks like in just a moment. So for example, if we go to Ernest Washington here and open Ernest up, we can see that Ernest has a profile page, and it takes Ernest's picture, his name, and his role, as well as some other data around kind of who he is and what he's doing, and puts that into a place for us. Looks like my mouse is about to die. Give me one moment here, and let me plug it in so it won't. Apologies, folks. All right. So each employee in this organization, in the Vivia Bio, which is a mock company that we've created of about 100 employees, has their own profile page where any of the other employees or workers in the company can go and view data about that particular individual. So for Antonio or any given employee, we can click to see that link and see some profile information, some background info, some dates, as well as some basic information about who this person is, who they report up to, and so forth. So each employee has one of these profile pages, as well as a list of other data that we can manage and track in Smartsheet. Now, going back to our company directory here, this is using a tool in Smartsheet called Dynamic View. And we're big proponents of Dynamic View at DigitalRadius because it kind of enables some novel capabilities. So it does allow users to kind of sort and filter live in the grid here. You saw I can toggle to sort ascending or descending on any of these given fields. I can also use any default filters or create my own. So it's a really great way for me if I've got a list of a couple hundred employees or over 1,000, and I need to get down to just a particular department or a particular role or a particular location. I can use either filters that are set by the admins as defaults or create my own. And any user can create their own filters here to get to just the data that they want to. Easy way for them to kind of slice down and see just those items. Now in Dynamic View 2, it allows for additional information to be populated. You can see in a kind of a directory view like this, we'd probably keep it pretty light in terms of what we're providing. But of course, we're going to give a link to our employees to go view this particular individual's profile page in case they want to see what Philip's been up to, what his background is, what his skills are, things like that. So a place for us to display kind of all that company profile data for each of our workers. Now, additionally, we've got some other pages here. So we've got an onboarding calendar. And so for our onboarding admin, this allows us to see in a calendar-based view, which uses dates in Smartsheet to plot rows here on a calendar view. And we've got our swim lanes here defined as our office locations. So you can see Boston, Cambridge, remote workers, and then Waltham in terms of the current employee or workers that we are actively onboarding and where they actually reside in terms of their office location. We can also create and use filters in this view. So if I just wanted to see a particular location, I could create my own filters and add those to toggle to just the data. And same thing as Dynamic View here, we also have the ability to provide additional detail beyond just what you're seeing on a particular tile for a particular worker. Now, when we go to the admin summary, now we're taking a look at what in Smartsheet is a dashboard object. And dashboards allow us to do things like plot charts with data from either sheets or reports, as well as use the other different widgets to include other data that we want to. So for example, not only do we have charts and metrics here for onboarding admin, but we've also got a table to show kind of grouped by onboarding class, the status of any given individual who we are currently onboarding. We can see in terms of this 516 class, looks like everything is going good. Our overall status is blue for complete. Everything's checked off there. Whereas for our 620 class, which just joined us a little over a week ago, we can see things are moving forward, although we need to ensure that we're kind of following through and making sure that those items get completed out to successfully onboard those individuals and complete that process. And then for our 711, looks like Mike Grady maybe got an early start there on some data. So another thing that we can do is kind of do pre-arrival coordination in terms of notifying via an email address the employee that you are intending to onboard before they even have your own corporate domain and email, just so you can start to get things like, any of their personal data, maybe their bio information, their skills, things like that. You can interact with them and have them start to provide that data in advance through Smartsheet using email addresses. Now, additionally, when we're onboarding employees, we often will need to interface with other departments in our organization. So for example, two critical teams that in this case we need to work with are our IT teams and our facilities teams. So with respect to IT, that's doing things like issuing out equipment to our onboarding new hires, as well as setting them up with access and provisioning and so forth, setting them up with software. And then on the facility side, doing things like assigning a desk or providing a parking pass, things like that. So Smartsheet allows us to all work from the same data in the same template, but then provide each team with its own kind of separate view. So in this case, we're giving IT as well as our admin a view into kind of just the things that they care about. So in this case, we see the IT status, we see a summary of any tasks that are open. So for our 620 onboarding group, we can see that both Brian and Scott have 2 tasks that are open. And then in our later class, the 711, most of those items are still open, although we can see it looks like Mike and IT have been working on getting some items completed in preparation for his arrival on the 11th. So this is that IT specific view, still gives us what we need. And of course, IT or our admins can jump into the specific onboarding templates through a quick link here. Same thing for facilities, where we're tracking the items that they need to care about, as well as where they care about them. So similar to IT, some of this is going to be location-based, where you've got a facilities or office manager at a given location, or an IT workforce at a given location. So those folks will need to know when people are arriving at those locations that they'll need to service and help with those particular tasks on our onboarding template. Now, what you can see too with facilities is that we are going to basically filter off folks who are going to be remote and say that they are not going to need kind of the standard facilities tasks in terms of parking pass, but they may still need some items from our facilities team. Now, in terms of reports like what you're seeing here with an onboarding intake admin, these allow us to group lots of data across either multiple sheets or single sheets to kind of give those all-inclusive or admin type views, where this is going to give our admin user access to all the data they need to make any updates across any of these individuals, and kind of manage that data set for our workers to be onboarded. In terms of how we get new workers into the system, that can come through a few different means. Ultimately, we need to create a row in the sheet that manages our onboarding process, and that row can be created through a simple Smartsheet form where we're filling things out like the manager, the worker type. So maybe we're onboarding a new employee. This person sits in IT and they're an IT analyst. And then just continuing through the form, we can provide kind of those standard fields. If you know Smartsheet forms, you can obviously require particular fields that you absolutely need to start the process. You can also do conditional fields as well. So based on me indicating that someone is remote, maybe that means that we need to set them up with VPN access or something like that. So there can be conditional logic around the answers that are provided to you in the form to collect additional points of data that are needed for specific condition paths. And then overarching reports like this, so an onboarding admin view, this is a great way for someone who needs to see or make updates to data across multiple sheets, can do all of that in a single page. So we are seeing onboarding data here for each and every employee that we are onboarding across these different classes. So you can see our 620 class with both me and Scott, as well as our 516 class with Jess and Ian and Tonman. And then if we expand Jess, for example, we can see any of the specific categories in which there are items that need completing as part of her onboarding. So for example, if we pop open tasks here, we can see everything is completed out on Jess's list of tasks. Same thing with the required trainings, onboarding milestones, equipment and IT assets, and then any required documents as well. So this again allows us to group lots of different data in a single place, And for example, if an onboarding admin needed to make an update, they can still do such things in this view as well. So we'll scroll down to someone who needs to finish some items. So for example, it looks like this is where we had some facilities items. So we'll go ahead and say that these were completed as well. And you can see I can make that update here. That will map back to Brian's specific onboarding template sheet. And also in the report, once I click refresh here and pop open tasks, you'll see that those tasks are now completed in status and blued out as well. We'll say that Brian also completed these things, so the admin's coming in and updating Brian's data for him just to make sure our data is accurate, and that will help complete things out. Now, it looks like Brian's still got some required trainings that he needs to complete, so we can definitely show what that's going to look like for him in just a moment. Now, in terms of some of these other items, same thing where if we needed to check off any of these things as done, this gives us all that master data. So really an admin type of a view where you're going to see all requisite fields that you need to basically manipulate the system and complete things out for your onboarding workflows. With the same thing on the offboarding side, I don't believe we have any current offboarding work items that are due, but if we do end up triggering an employee with like an involuntary term or resignation or an end of contract that would trigger an offboarding workflow for our teams, we'll see that those tasks will be grouped across anyone who's offboarding here in this report as well. Now, on the other side, we have portfolio users. So for this example, we're going to log in as a different user, which is Ernest Washington. So let me pull up Ernest on a separate tab here. And we're logged in as Ernest now as opposed to the admin. So you can see that the drop down in terms of roles goes away because Ernest isn't assigned multiple roles like our admin users are. Ernest is just a portfolio user in this case. So he's able to see the items that are really intended for managers. So in this case, he's got access to the company directory and the onboarding calendar, which you saw and we viewed on the admin role as well. So same data here. Those views are consistent across our different roles. So we give each and every role access to the company directory, each and every role access to the onboarding calendar if they want to see who's going to be joining the organization in the coming weeks. But then for managers specifically, we've got a few different pages for them that are different from our admin views. So we've got a page specifically that summarizes what's going on for Ernest in terms of the people he's onboarding to his team. So he can see here that Ian's onboarding is complete, whereas Brian and Scott are kind of in the process of completing their onboarding at this point in time. And then he's got Mike that's going to be joining in a couple weeks here as well. Now, this gives him an idea of what's going on with his onboardings, and he can see where items are past due and maybe drill into which one of the individuals here may have some of those late items. We can see that Scott has 14, Brian's got 4. So both of these guys kind of need to kick it into gear and wrap up the items on their onboarding plans that have not yet been completed. But that gives us a great way to kind of see where we may have some potential delays or issues so that we can obviously address those and get those resolved and get these employees successfully onboarded and make sure we're finishing out that templatized checklist. Now for Ernest, when he needs to kind of manage his team and take particular actions, he can do that from the My Team view here. You can see again, this is a mix of charts as well as data. So we've got the team, we've got the status in terms of whether or not he's hiring people, who he's onboarding, if he's got some pending departures coming up in the near term. All of that data can be shown here. And then we also are calling out the end dates for his contingent laborers in terms of when their contracts are up in a widget here. So it's kind of top of sight, top of mind, so that he can either make decisions around extending those workers' contract end dates or letting them roll off at the end of that particular contract. Now he can do all of that from a dynamic view here. Now you can see this dynamic view is different from the dynamic view that we saw in the company directory. This is for managers specifically to be able to take actions on their direct reports. So for example, if Ernest needs to take an action with Antonio, it may be a variety of different things, but he can pop Antonio's details out here and you can see that he's getting a little bit more information about Antonio than we were seeing on the company directory. Now he's got a drop-down list here for different actions that a manager might need to take for a given worker type of employee. So in this case, he might need to update Antonio's data. He might want to nominate him for promotion, issue a one-time bonus payment, set Antonio on a performance improvement plan if things are kind of, struggling a bit these days. Maybe Antonio's notified Ernest that he's resigning and going to be leaving his position. If Ernest selects resignation here and clicks on save, that's going to allow him to then populate some new information based on that value. So for example, with Carol, if we submit involuntary term here, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, where that will pop up and ask us for the termination date and reason. So there we go at the bottom, required fields, asking for date and reason. So again, kind of that conditional logic that allows us to better manage our process and our data based on the actions that a manager is dictating need to happen with a given employee for that particular employee type. So again, for contingent laborers, in this case, we can extend our contract dates. We might be looking to convert that contingent laborer to a full-time employee, or we might have that contingent laborer ending their contract early. So any of those three kind of conditions, we can obviously have the manager indicate which of any of those have happened. So in this case, maybe we want to extend Dorothy's contract. So we click on save, and it's going to ask us for an extension date then. And we can say we're going to extend Dorothy's contract date until the end of August. And click on save, and then within a few minutes here, Dorothy's contract date, we've got an auto approval set on that right now, but you could trigger a workflow to say, hey, we're requesting an extension of this particular contingent laborer's contract, and have that go to the manager to approve that. Or if they have budget, and there's some flexibility there, we can just auto kind of pass it along. Now, Ernest will see his profile here. He's got the company directory and the onboarding calendars, and then he's also got a list here for my tasks. Now, you can see here that this is for Mike Grady. It's under Mike's required trainings, and it's currently in progress and assigned to Ernest to go over company SOPs with Mike. Now, basically, a my tasks type of a report filters based on who the current user is. So it's only going to show Ernest the items where he is listed in the assigned to. So it's a really quick and easy way for him to get to just those things that he is personally responsible for, so he can close those out. Maybe he sent Mike the SOPs via email, so he's going to go ahead and complete this out and click on save and refresh. And of course, that task now goes away. Now, Manager Admin gives Ernest that list into all of his kind of current active onboarding new hires so that he can go through the list of items that are required for them and close out any of those items that have been completed. If he just wants to see the incomplete items as opposed to the items that are also completed, he can go to a view here that's limited to just the items that are in not started, delayed, or in progress status. We are looking for items that are issues. We can see here any items that are on that delayed status so that Ernest again can come in here and say, hey, Dane, what's going on? And then Dane's side on the facilities, he'll be able to see this row as well in his facilities report and update based on the comment that he's seen from Ernest. We also have a latest comments feature here, where when we expand this back out to show that task, you can see Ernest's note based on that latest comment column, which Smartsheet recently released, maybe within the last year or so. But that basically takes whatever the most recent comment is and puts the text with the name attribution of who posted it. Now, something that we're doing for active onboarding, for example, is for Brian here, we've got a link to his onboarding work app. So what do we do with that? Well, if we go to Brian's onboarding work app, we can see exactly what Brian's template looks like. So here we've got a list of items that need to be done for each and every new hire worker onboarding that we're going to undertake. We've got some conditional logic to say if someone's remote, we're not going to require certain things, or if they are a contingent laborer, they don't need to go through the employee handbook. So depending on certain values that we're providing about who they are and what they're doing for our company, we can determine which out of these tasks we really want them to go through. We obviously can share this data out and have it assigned out to individuals or kind of pre-assigned based on who that person is, and then capture the data in this sheet either through reports or direct edit of the sheet itself. And so you can see here in terms of our list of items, we've got some kind of sysadmin stuff at the top. We've got milestones and documents. We've got kind of a pre-start date list of items that need to be taken care of in preparation for this person's arrival. And then groups of items beneath that for the first week, first 30 days, first 60 days, and first 90 days. And then kind of a final closeout at the end of that process of successfully onboarding someone within about a 3-month timeline. Now your timeline may vary. Maybe you're only looking to do a 6-week onboarding. Ultimately, the template for what your onboarding workflow looks like can be completely different from what you're seeing here. But ultimately, the capabilities and functionality that you're seeing today remains the same, regardless of what your data looks like or what your field names are. So we can do alerts and automations. We can map data between different sheets depending on where it needs to go. All of that good stuff is enabled through Smartsheet's premium applications such as Control Center, Data Mesh, and Pivot, which allow us to build out kind of full-scale solutions like you're seeing today. Now, there's also a worker role here. So project owner in this case would be the manager. So when Ernest clicks in to see what's going on with Brian's onboarding specifically, this is what he sees. But then again, on the worker side, maybe we're giving them a worker summary or an onboarding summary here in a view-only capacity where they can see all the data, but not necessarily update it. And then like a My Tasks view for the things that are assigned to them to be able to update those items there. I believe this is listed on a view as well, just to give them access to the sheet if they need to see kind of everything that's included. Now we can go back up to our top level and get back out of this to our portfolio work app. Looks like the navigation had a little trouble there. But now we are back on Ernest's kind of manager role here with his onboardings, his team, and his profile, and then the ability for him to complete out items for the people that he is onboarding. I think we do want to leave some time if there's any questions from the group. So I'll go ahead and pause for a second here just to see if any questions have come up.
Yeah, and thanks, Brian. I've answered a couple of questions in the chat. A couple of great questions did come up. One that I think it might be worth asking, specifically is there's a question of, assigning training and how could you use this to manage assigning training to users? And I think that's both within, the onboarding, offboarding, or especially the onboarding workflow, and then also sort of more broadly within Smartsheet, you can use this to manage assigning training to users.
What we can do to assign training is really, it's more so done either on the specific department pages. So for example, an IT admin would have access to be able to assign trainings that are required by IT, or if we know that a training is going to be led by an individual's manager, knowing who that manager is, we can auto assign that. So that's what we were seeing, for example, with Ernest, when we've got these required trainings here for Ian, for example, auto assigning the SOPs to Ernest, or the IT orientation and cybersecurity being assigned to Nancy based on the IT team knowing who's at what locations and who has availability to do the trainings on a given date. And then that would be also the case here for Mike, where he's got the same kind of thing with some required trainings, as well as people assigned out to it. So the assignments can be done just by updating a field in the cell value in the assigned to column in the sheets, or through reports, depending on who has access to those rows.
Yeah, and I think what's cool about that here is, certainly here we're using this as part of an onboarding workflow, but of course these are all components built on top of Smartsheet. So if we wanted to pull these components out and use it as a lightweight learning management system with assigned trainings and that not started, complete, or other statuses attached to it and a dashboard on top of that, Absolutely, right? Absolutely, that's something that we could do to build this into an LMS and for regulated workflow, and for a lot of, especially life sciences or aerospace defense, et cetera. There's a lot of trainings. In this case, it's sort of your standard. I'm joining a company. What are the trainings that are required? But in a lot of the regulated industries, that's an ongoing, very significant requirement, and certainly we could use that to manage it here.
And so to that point, with the assign to field in the template here for onboarding, some of these cells may be cell links where we're auto assigning it to the manager or formula based, whereas others are kind of edit and overwrite. So for example, if we don't know in advance who's going to be doing the some of these documents in terms of our HR group, but then we've got let's say Ruby that we assign, you just add a contact value in this assign to, and then this will show up on Ruby's My Tasks report based on that filtering on the current user that's shown in the assign to field.
Another piece that I wanted to highlight here that it sort of came up in one of the questions was, the idea of how does this integrate with other solutions, and then how do you use it as sort of a broader platform or portal? And I want to talk about integration for a second, because I think that's one of the key components and capabilities of Smartsheet. A problem I've had running IT for growth companies in multiple scenarios is that mid-market SaaS tools often do not have great APIs, integration capabilities. That's something they build later as they start to support larger enterprise. The problem with that is that when you are a growth or mid-market company and you're looking to integrate your platform, you're looking to do API-centric, like we want data to move between different tools, you really can't do it if the platforms don't support it, if they don't allow you to have, they don't have APIs, they don't have user management from an integration perspective. Smartsheet, because it's really built as a platform, has APIs for everything. So we can do all of the integrations that you'd look to, in and out of Workday, in and out of UKG, in and out of Namely, Bamboo, or any a greenhouse onboarding. We can do those integrations. And so this is not simply a sort of workflow engine sitting on its own. It can be a part of a highly integrated environment with other platforms and capabilities. So we've built an ITSM tool that you can certainly use, and we recommend if you don't have one today. But if you already have an ITSM platform, you've got Zendesk or you've got ServiceNow, we can absolutely integrate into that so that these tasks and tickets flow through from Smartsheet to ServiceNow or Zendesk and then back. That is something to me that is extremely powerful and a big differentiator for Smartsheet as a mid-market tool, where most of those mid-market SaaS solutions are very immature from a data and integration capability perspective. So big advantage to building on top of Smartsheet. One of the reasons we're so excited to be a Smartsheet partner is all these are built on top of a platform that's already far more powerful than most of the tools out there. And that is a huge advantage for us.
One other thing that came through on the chat as well, or on the questions as well, is just around the stakeholders. So, and who can be involved in the whole on and offboarding process. So we had facilities and IT as the stakeholders that we have identified just for demo purposes. As Brian had mentioned at the top of the call, Smartsheet is pretty much like a blank canvas. So with these solutions, we can incorporate multiple other stakeholders across your organizations as well, so we can completely customize it to who needs to be notified involved in the process.
All right, great. Do we have any other questions? If not, happy to dive into here. I'll keep an eye on the Q&A. Dive into a little bit about our Smartsheet support. So this is a custom solution deployment, right? This is something that we can do. Well, I'd say two things, right? One is we've pre-built a lot of tools here. We also can do custom deployments for any kind of solutions or problems that come up. For example, like that LMS capability, certainly something we could do. And we always jump on, technical assistance, support, troubleshooting. We do some of these, and happy to chat about contracting. Some of these are time and materials contracts if they're more custom type development. Some like onboarding, if we're really using our out-of-the-box solution, we're doing that as a services model where we do a monthly subscription for 12 months, and that includes hours so that you've got all of that support built in. And we really want to, follow this train the trainer concept. So we do the configuration and setup, but we also really support you. We want knowledge transfer over to you, and we really want to make sure that you're getting a lot out of this. So high level, right, we're deeply invested in the Smartsheet platform. We want you to have the training, the support, the documentation, the tutorials. All of this are pieces that we build and hand off to you as the client. And we get really excited about, how do we do more, right? There's always more to do with Smartsheet, and that's what we build on, right? We come in, help you knock it out of the park, and great. If we do one app, that's fantastic. Over time, there's usually more use cases. Smartsheet's capable of doing so much in terms of workflow, data management, automation, getting rid of Excel, getting rid of email as a workflow engine. And so there's always more that we're looking to do as we go forward. With that, I believe that wraps us up for today. Brian, Jess, anything else you'd like to cover? All right. Well, I just want to say a big thank you to Brian for walking us through, bringing the technical expertise to bear. Thank you to everyone for attending. This is something that, again, I get really passionate about this, really excited about what we've built here as an onboarding, offboarding solution, and happy to chat. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, you want to know more, please reach out. Always happy to chat, always happy to discuss Smartsheet at any time. Just want to say thank you so much and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thanks all.